Hello and welcome to the Human Echoes recap for Z Nation Season 3, Episode 1. This one's called No Mercy, ladies and gentlemen. And it's listed on IMDb as Episode 1, so we're going to call it Episode 1. However, I have some problems with that because it's not really an episode. It's a 2-hour-long movie special prequel flashback thing. And it's not really the beginning of Season 3. We're flashing back into the middle of Season 2 with this. And I gotta say, I was actually excited about this idea to start with. I thought, okay, we're gonna go back to Season... I actually thought we were gonna go before Season 1. I was thinking they were gonna cover Black Summer, that we were gonna get like some different... Like before the group met up, we were gonna kind of explore some different storylines and weave them together and maybe meet some different characters. But instead, they take us back to the middle of Season 2. They have the baby with them. We see that Cassandra's still alive, so it's before she gets killed by 10K. So it's somewhere in the window of after the baby's born, before they drop the baby off, and before Cassandra gets killed. We just get to drop in on this random mission that the Z Nation crew went on, and I don't get it. It's kind of an interesting idea, but going into this, I was thinking this is going to be like a great jumping in point for new watchers, that people are going to watch this, it's going to introduce all the characters, it's going to set up the world, and it does that in a way, but my problem is I don't see how it does it better than you could just do going forward with the show. We could still meet up with all these characters, and you have everybody on the hook from the end of Season 2 to find out what's happening, and you decide to go back to what turns out to be a pretty inconsequential episode in the lives of these people. I mean, it's interesting because we do get to introduce a new character, couple new characters. The man is the most obvious one. And I'll talk about him for a minute here. He's a really interesting character, got a shaved head, basically looks like the White Yul Brynner, wears a suit and flip-flops in the zombie apocalypse, which might tell you something about what kind of a character he is. I don't know. The flip-flops thing kind of threw me. It felt like they were going for a joke there, but it just felt weird. Like, this guy is prepared for everything. How is he leaving his feet exposed like that? Is he just that concerned with his comfort of his feet? I didn't get it. And speaking of jokes, there weren't a lot in this episode. There were a few funny moments, but if you're coming into this and you think this is what Z Nation's like, this was kind of a snooze fest. Especially, I mean, there was some great action. Don't get me wrong. There was some really cool ideas when the second hour of this special episode got here and you get to see the man's assault on this compound that, you know, our boys and girls have decided to help defend. There are some cool ideas there. You get him backing the truck up and you get all the zombies going in there. You get the Kraken zombie thing with the guy driving him with the whip and all the zombies with the helmets on so they can't be shot. That was a cool idea. Them sort of setting up the whole area with the red cloth over it to reference High Plains Drifter, and they did a lot of movie references in this. That was all kind of cool. But ultimately, it didn't feel like Z Nation. It felt like, I don't know, like Z Nation light. It felt like they suffered from stretching out from 1 hour to 2, whereas sometimes in a 1 hour show, I feel like they rush. You know, you go pop, 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 plot point, plot point, plot point, plot point, and we're done. And you don't get the time to develop anything. Here, I felt like they had the exact opposite problem. They had 2 hours to fill, and there was stuff in there that I felt like you could have cut that. You absolutely could have cut. Some of the action felt like filler. Some of it felt like it wasn't going anywhere. And ultimately, it wasn't going anywhere. The only thing this episode did was introduce the character of the man and introduce the idea that this guy with this really posh penthouse kind of a lifestyle in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, which is cool. Okay, that opening, when you see that first initial phone call between the man and the man, for lack of a better word, the guy who's living it up but obviously has some sickness issues, that was cool. That was a great, like, where are we at? And then at that point, I wasn't 100% sure where we were in the timeline because we hadn't seen the main cast yet. So we were looking at just these two characters interacting. I thought maybe we're going back further. Maybe this is before things got really bad. But no, this guy just hangs out in the desert with his flip-flops on, and he talks on the phone to this other guy who has a bunch of, like, bikini-clad babes and one dude hanging out in his pool in front of him. I don't know what the purpose of that was. Again, I know the purpose of introducing him. That was fine. It's cool that we have a new villain in addition to the villains that we had from the end of the previous season, which we don't get any resolution on here. That's fine that you want to introduce new characters. Why did we have to go through what we go through every week on Z Nation, admittedly, but we meet all these people, this huge compound, this whole setup for all of these people to be made, you know, we get attached to them, that, you know, 10K has another crush, big surprise there, 10K gets blue balls, and then we just get to the end and they're like, well, nobody survived, all right, well, moving on, Murphy was right, bye-bye, guys. It felt like a giant letdown. And again, it wasn't that there wasn't anything cool in this. I liked 5K a lot. He was a neat addition, but they killed him off. I thought that it was weird that he was raised by crows, and I wanted to find more about that, but they killed him off. Wanted to see him, like, attack somebody with the crows that all loved him and hung around with him, but they killed him off. Just, this is what it's like every episode for 10K. You think you're going to get something awesome, and you get blue balled. I feel like I'm getting the 10K treatment from Z Nation. I'm getting mad here. And I don't want to get mad. Okay. I'm getting, let's say, passionate. That's a good word, right? I'm getting passionate about this because I really do like this show. And I'm excited for this show. I like Craig Engler and Carl Schaefer. I like the things that they're doing with this show. I like that we have an alternative to the drab, like, depressing, talky, you know, everybody's talking all the time and being depressed all the time about, oh, I live in the zombie apocalypse kind of thing we get with The Walking Dead. That's great. Glad we don't have to deal with that anymore. I mean, it's still around, but you don't have to watch it because we have this to watch. It's a fun show. And I think one of the things that I really missed the most was the fun. There wasn't enough fun in this episode. And I don't know if they were trying to give people a jumping on point, if Sci-Fi gave them kind of a mandate, like, listen, we can't just throw people in the middle of the mix. We want to have something for people to latch onto, for new viewers to sort of jump in. And if they have to start with what the cliffhanger was last year, we don't know if they're going to stick around. Maybe that was the case, but then you're just going to have confusion when they get to whatever, you know, the next episode where they actually do pick up the plot that I'm still interested in, still want to see, because they're going to be like, well, what happened to these people? How did this submarine... It's a weird decision. I don't get it. I thought I wanted this, really. I thought that it was a cool idea. I still think it's a cool idea, in theory. I don't think it was good execution. I think you could have taken a lot of these really great ideas. The Red Town standoff. You could have introduced the man somewhere else. You could have used the Kraken somewhere else. You could have thrown these scientists being collected in by this mysterious guy somewhere else. You didn't have to do it this way. There's more stuff I could say about the episode individually. There's some really great, I will say, there's some great cinematography in this. They are referencing a lot of sort of westerns and stuff, and they really do kind of hit that on the nose and even tell you, hey, we're referencing this, and I'm fine with that. I really am. I think that it's great that Z Nation isn't afraid to borrow and steal from other cinema in both their storylines and how they shoot things. That's cool. And it's fine that they acknowledge it up front. I like that they're not sort of being cagey, like, we came up with this idea ourselves. The Red Town? Totally not High Plains Drift for you guys. Totally something we came up with. What? Somebody did that before? They wear their influences on their sleeve, and that's great. I wish they had a few more comedy influences in this episode, but I've already hit that nail on the head enough. The one, like, the major glaring issue that I had with the camera work in this episode was the fact that you had that just awful, horrendous day for night shot with Warren, where to the point where I figured it was supposed to be day for night, because I saw later on they had the sun coming up in the next, after the commercial break, we saw that Addie was, found her machete out on the ground. It was supposed to be day for night, but it was the worst. It was the worst day for night shot I've ever seen. And I mean, I've seen some bad day for night shots, like real bad. They had like the fully lit up sky in full view with the clouds and everything just completely lit up like daylight, and then they just sort of turned up the contrast or whatever, so you just couldn't, Warren was a silhouette. And I've seen that kind of work in Z Nation. If you look at the opening of last season's episode, I forget what the number of it is, but the one where they go to Roswell, it's called Roswell with a Z. They're traveling through the desert, and you have a great, like, blacked out sky, but you can still see the sun, and it's a cool stylistic effect, and you, like, it works. It really works. It doesn't look real, but it looks interesting, so you're not totally taken out of it. This just looked like somebody put a real bad blue filter on that shot, and it did not work. And we didn't get enough from a lot of the characters. I mean, 10K did his thing where he falls in love with whatever, finds a girlfriend and loses her by the end of the episode. Addie hit some people with a baseball bat. Doc didn't even get to be Doc. I mean, we talk about, like, the characters. Doc just sort of filled in for Warren when she was gone. Like, he didn't have hardly any jokes. I'm not saying that he didn't have any funny moments, but I mean, his t-shirt was great. Let's all take a moment and acknowledge how amazing that t-shirt was. But it did feel like a little bit of, like, we learned so much about these characters that we knew were gonna die. Like, this is a prequel going into it. It's a flashback, and these characters aren't in the show. Like, they're not in the rest of the show, so they're not going to stick around. They're either going to die, or they're maybe, like, best case, I was hoping somebody might wander off and be like, we're going to go find a place to live somewhere else. But we don't get that. So we get character development for the scientist guy who, okay, he survives. Maybe there was a point to that. We don't get character development for Addie. We don't get anything character-wise for 10K. Nothing for Doc. Cool stuff for Warren, and a really great, I want to shout out to the editors who edited the sequence where she is doing the training montage. That was amazing. But Murphy's just Murphy. Everybody's just stagnant here. I'm worried I'm going to get more of season 2, where it felt like they were just kind of spinning their wheels and trying to make sci-fi happy while they got to what they want to do in season 3. And now they're spinning their wheels some more with this. I don't like spinning the wheels. I want to go forward. We went like a little bit forward with the scientists being collected and with the man character and all that stuff, but we can go farther forward in a 2-hour episode. It wasn't what I wanted. It didn't put me off of the show. Exactly. It just felt unnecessary. It felt like they maybe only had 9 episodes worth of content, and so they were like throwing us a bone with this just so we can see these people, but it didn't add anything. So the only other thing that's worth mentioning here is the new type of zombies. The characters in the show say they might not be zombies. I'm going to say they're zombies. The people in the lab who were infected by the fungus, who turned them kind of funky and kind of weird, and the scientist guy says it's, you know, it's staving off the zombie virus, but they're not dying from the zombie virus. Here's how I feel about this, and I've said this many times. I think Z Nation is leading up to, I don't even know if you can call it a reveal at this point, because they've hinted at it and like alluded to it in so many different ways that it's basically got to be this way, that there is still some form of human consciousness inside the zombies, that the zombies still retain some level of their humanity and some level of their soul. And this sequence here where the scientist tells them these aren't zombies, they still have a soul, but Murphy can communicate with them. Murphy's the zombie whisperer. It sure seems like they're zombies, folks, is what I'm saying. So, but even that wasn't anything new. We have the fungus thing. We know that, you know, these zombies were able to be shielded from it, but nobody got the fungus. Like, it didn't go anywhere. Nobody picked anything up to take with them that we saw anyway. If this is a whole, like, long retcon to show that they had exposed to this fungus and they can't be killed by the zombies because they want to do something in the beginning of season 3, I'm going to be real disappointed. Maybe. It depends how the actual episode plays out once we get to it. But even that didn't feel like much. Again, because I've already had this suspicion for a while. The zombies have some level of their humanity. They're not just mindless monsters. I mean, we saw it way back in season 1 with the Z-Weed. Or not with the Z-Weed, I'm sorry, with just the regular, when Doc is smoking the pot with the zombie in the shaft, and you see him blow the smoke in the guy's face, and he gets the contact high because, you know, there's something still left in there, and they're trapped. And I like the angle that they're going for with the zombies being still having some of their humanity, but also being so horrified and so unable to control themselves that they do want to die. I like that, because otherwise the heroes of the show are just monsters. They're just awful, awful people who have just been going around killing what are essentially human beings willy-nilly. And I don't want that, really. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like we got anywhere close to enough new stuff to justify a whole 2-hour prequel. I don't know what the reasoning here is. I liked some stuff in this, but ultimately, for me, it just kind of fell flat. That is all I have to say about this episode. If you felt differently, if you had other thoughts, I'd love to hear about in the comments. So let me know down there. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, I'll be doing the whole season of Z Nation. So click that subscribe button, like this video, and I will see you guys next week with more of my Z Nation recaps.